Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Happy Father's Day to all of our dads in the room. Today we start a new series, and if you read the newsletter, you read that the new series is entitled, I Just Want to Be Happy. And how many times have we heard that? How many times have we possibly said that? I think when you talk to people and you really ask them at a gut level, what do you want to be? What do you want out of life? Most people take a brief moment to think, have a deep sigh, and say, I just want to be happy. And so let's talk for the next few Sundays about what that means and what that looks like. In order to do that, let's first turn to Scripture this morning. Let's go to the 16th Psalm, Psalms 16. The whole psalm, it's only 11 verses, and I will write that for us. So let's go to Psalm 16, 1 through 11. And I'm going to read it from the Message translation for clarity, but then I will reread the last verse, the 11th verse out of the traditional King James Version, and that might be familiar to you. Psalm 16, 1 through 11. Now listen for the word of the Lord. Keep me safe, O God. I've run for dear life to you. I say to God, be my Lord. Without you, nothing makes sense. And these God-chosen lives all around, what splendid friends they make. Don't just go shopping for a God. Gods are not for sale. I swear I'll never treat God names like brand names. My choice is you, God, first and only, and now I find I'm your choice. And you set me up with a house and yard, and then you made me your heir. The wise counsel God gives when I'm awake is confirmed by my sleeping heart. Day and night I'll stick with God. I've got a good thing going, and I'm not letting go. I'm happy from the inside out, and from the outside in, I'm firmly formed. You counseled my ticket to hell. That's not my destination. Now you've got my feet on the path, on the life path, all radiant from the shining of your face. Ever since you took my hand, I'm on the right way. The 11th verse from the traditional King James Version reads, Thou wilt show me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand there are pleasures forevermore. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God. I just want to be happy, right? Isn't that what we all want? Let's start out with a question this morning. Overall, do you think Americans are happy? Why or why not?
These days?
Mm-hmm. Do you
No, in 1800. Okay, well, let's talk about that.
Oh, I was back here then.
Hutch, what was it like in the 1800s? You can tell. Were you all happy back then? I just wanted to. Just joking.
We didn't have nearly as many smart asses.
Touche, touche.
That was the only smart ass around.
Okay, do you think we're happy? Do you think we're happy?
It depends who you ask.
Depends on you ask.
I think overall people are not happy because the American dream is to always want more. And when you're always wanting more, you're never happy. You're never satisfied because you never arrived. You never say, the poor people are often the happiest people because they're just happy with what they've got. So when you
I think people have forgotten how to be happy.
Okay, okay. People have forgotten how.
Forgotten how to be happy. They've forgotten what's important in life that makes you happy. Money doesn't make you happy. Things don't make you happy. Helping people makes you happy. Living a Christian life. But people have lost sight of that. Everybody just wants more and more and more.
Okay, okay. Mike?
I think that, this is me thinking, I'm the guy that always says the glass is half full. And I believe that if you have faith, you believe, you have a belief in God, and you're a Christian, I think those people for the most part, are happy people. So my motivation is to be a faith-loving Christian, because I believe that is the direction of my life. That's the roadmap. And I hope that a lot of other people have that same belief as well, because I really do believe that Christians are happy people.
Okay, okay. Sue, or Suzanne, I'm sorry, and Val, I saw you guys
Oh, I have.
chiming, thinking, chiming. You want to add something or no?
I'll add something. Most families nowadays have two working parents, and the stress level is pretty incredible. I think, I just don't know that people are that happy. I think there's such a struggle to just stay current with, I don't know, just economics of this country, particularly of this state, are not good. We have more of the haves and the have-nots, and the gap gets wider and wider and wider. And I just, it's hard for people these days, very hard for people. And I just don't know if people are that happy.
I think happiness is a choice. And I think, through my life, I've been very unhappy in the past and younger. And I look back and I think, I don't know why. And I think once I just decided, I'm happy, and I'm happy. I'm happy with what I have. I don't have a whole lot, but I'm thankful for what I have. So I think it's a choice, almost regardless of your situation. I mean, there's something good to be said for anything in the long run.
Okay, okay. Val?
Pretty optimistic and idealistic, but I think it's true.
Okay.
Well, somebody made the comment, they thought if you're poor, you're the happiest. I just don't believe that. I just think everybody wants,
Well, ignorance is bliss.
and well, you think it's ignorance that makes them happy?
Doesn't hurt.
I don't know.
I
just
didn't
think all
mean
of
it
them
that
want a
way,
better
Val.
life.
I didn't mean it that all poor people, I'm saying that often poor
People
people
are happiest.
are happier than people who are striving always to get more,
Yeah.
because they're saying, here I am, this is my life, and
Yeah,
They kind of accept
I've
it.
accepted it.
but you know what, it's all relative
Of course.
as well. You know, it's
But
all
if we're
relative.
talking America as a
That's the bottom
whole,
line, I think.
Did you have something?
Oh, I was just thinking that, I think that as we age, we may become, well, we can become bitter sometimes. You know, if you're very ill and have, illness, people can become very bitter. But if you don't have that, I think that sometimes as we age, we can put things more in perspective. We don't have as many wants. And so I think sometimes we get more settled and more content with life as we get older.
More balanced, I think.
I mean, you guys have really taught the whole lesson. I can just close it up, right? Because what you said, I think, is really, really good. Really, really good. But you hutch and I'll move.
I think it's called aphorisms, and I'm not even real sure, little sayings or whatever. But mine is the one that I've really lived by more than anything else. And,
We disagree. Go ahead.
well, we don't agree on anything.
That's why you have high blood pressure. Go ahead.
I don't have high blood pressure. I'm dedicated. That's why I'm ugly. Anyway, you do the best you can with what you got. If you need a helping hand, you look at the end of your arm and screw them if they can't take a joke.
And you don't ask anybody for help when you need it, and that's why you have high blood pressure.
If you need a helping hand, you look at the end of your arm.
You look at that end of your hand, but you look to your friends as well.
Sharon,
What-
you're never gonna win.
I know, I know.
so Hutch, you're saying that if you're an island, you're good?
That's right.
I am an island.
See?
What are you doing in here then?
Well, that's, you got a point.
Because you're
there.
not,
He enjoys it.
you might be a peninsula, but you're not an
An
island.
island. Sean Anker, some of you may have heard that name. Sean Anker, he was born in Waco, Texas, by two parents. His father was a psychologist and professor at Baylor, and grew up in a very kind of traditional, pretty conservative Christian home. Went to Harvard, and his whole world changed. He got a degree, I can't remember his undergraduate degree, went on to Harvard Divinity to teach at Harvard Divinity, and there he got involved in studying happiness, and really began to wonder. He says that when he was in Waco, he didn't know anyone of a different religion. He said he knew very little, if anybody, of a different race. He was just in a very insulated environment. And going to Boston and, studying divinity at Harvard, and he was the first time he had ever really been introduced that there were other people in the world who thought differently than him.
And Boston's very diverse.
Who saw the world differently, who believed differently. And he talks about having a little bit of a breakdown and even being a bit suicidal, that his whole world shifted because he had never been introduced that the world has lots of different people in it, and how there are people across the world, and even here in this country, living their lives in very different ways. And he didn't quite know as a young person how to wrap his mind around that. Well, he got involved in teaching in psychology and talking and teaching about happiness, created a course with another person, and it's the most popular course at Harvard. 1 out of 6, while he was there teaching, 1 out of 6 Harvard students took this course. More popular than economics, which is interesting because that's why people go to Harvard. For the most part, is to study business and economics. It was a course on happiness. How do you, and he really has a great mix of science and psychology. And so some of the things that I'm going to share today come from some of his teachings. Do you know what TED Talks are? Ever seen it? TED is I can't remember, it's an acronym that stands for something. It's basically they bring thought leaders from all walks of life, from business and marketing to spirituality to psychology to medicine to humanities, and they bring them together and they give talks. And they're some of the most interesting and inspirational, informative speeches you'll ever hear. They have like 12 minutes to hit it and go. And so his TED Talk has been viewed millions of times. You can look on YouTube and look it up. But Shawn Achor says that in his research and in his traveling and teaching about happiness, that literally he was with Swiss bankers who had lost their bonus. He was in Switzerland with Swiss bankers, and who had lost their bonus 1/4 and were devastated. Were the most pessimistic, just gloom and doom, didn't know how they were possibly going to go on. Lost not their salary, not their job, but their bonus. Their quarterly bonus, 1/4. He said he went there and flew to Zimbabwe to farmers who had lost everything because of drought and were the most optimistic, most forward-thinking, most glasses half full kind of people he had ever met, which he said really made him begin to think, what makes us happy? What is it in the world? Is it possessions and things that make us happy? He says, talking about poor people, he says, poor people, some of them are incredibly content in the world, in where they are. Others are bored when he travels to developing countries. Some are bored and kind of unhappy and discontent. So it's not necessarily the presence of things that make us happy, nor the absence of things, but it's the outlook in the ways in which you use those things that can make us happy. We have, no doubt, more material things than we've ever had. We are living longer because of medicine, and when we have technological advances that have made our lives as easy as they have ever been. And who in the world years ago would have thought you could have your grandchildren in another country and get on the computer and see their little sparkling faces because of Skype or FaceTime or some other technology? Who in the world years ago thought that you could be halfway across the world in a matter of hours? Our lives are incredibly more easy than our grandparents and our great-grandparents, who many of them grew up working farms and did incredibly back-breaking work. Who would have thought that our lives today would be so easy? Yet, we are, in many ways, unhappier and more discontent than we have ever been. And how do you gauge that? When you look at the amount of persons on anxiety medicine. The medical community and they talk about I can't remember, some huge amount of our chronic diseases are caused by stress and anxiety. How in the world can our lives be so much easier and we be so much more fortunate materially, living longer medically because of medical advances, yet have the highest levels of anxiety and discontent and stress than we've ever had in the history of recording those things? So, my question to you is, where's the disconnect? Where's the disconnect? That we have all of these very fortunate things happening for us in our society, yet we have these huge levels of discontent. It's something, in my opinion, in the water, in the air. It's a spiritual problem. I say that meaning it's a spiritual problem. And I talk about the United States because I know it best. This is where I've grown up. And when you look at the United States in particular, there are things that we have here that we take for granted as a part of just the way life is that other countries don't have. Other countries don't have mass shootings. You do know that, right? Other developed nations that are on our level of development and technology and finance, and they don't have mass shootings. So my question, and I don't necessarily know the answer, but my question is to prod us to think and consider as people of faith, why us? What is it in our water? What is it in the spiritual fabric of our society that causes people to shoot up folk? Why here? Other places don't have that. Other places don't necessarily have the amount of crime and prisoners. We have less than 10% of the world's population, yet we have over 25% of the world's criminals. Are we more criminal here? Or is it something else going on? Why is it that Americans are housing millions of people in prison? And other developed, compared to our population, other countries don't have those issues, or at least they don't criminalize things like we do. Is it what's in the water here, right? What's going on with the fabric of who we are that other nations don't have those issues? And I think it's time that we take a look at, why are we so unhappy? Why is it that we by far have more prescriptions for antidepressants and anti-anxiety medicine compared to other nations? Are we just naturally more anxious and depressed? Or is there something in the spiritual fabric of our society? These are, I think, really important questions, but really hard questions, right? And it's not, in my opinion, I hope you don't take me wrongly, it's not questioning our sense of patriotism, but you critique something because you love it, right? What's going on with us that we're just so darn unhappy, right? Anyone have any suggestions? What do you think the disconnect is?
Well, a couple of things. I think a lot of it, is the spiritual, but a couple of the things that affect our spirituality, I think, is that so many other countries still have multi-generations of families that live together, so the grandparents are in the home. And my grandparents weren't in the home, but I guarantee you the 4 wonderful grandparents I had helped me to develop to be a decent person. And so if if mom and dad work, you'd still have grandparents there. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is that what the kids see on TV and listen to in the music that glamorizes, violence and drugs and things like that has a huge impact, because the amount of time the kids spend on computers and TV and all of that stuff is just tremendous, and compared to even how much time they spend in the classroom or how much time they spend with their parents.
Do other countries have the same video games and stuff that we have? They do, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't think they have the TV programming that we have.
They don't have, they don't necessarily have the same TV program. Although, what's also interesting, all of the areas in which we are off the charts in these negative ways, we are one of the few developed, civilized, or developed countries that explicitly describe itself as a Christian nation. Right? But that's that's the narrative of who we say we are. Yet we have all of these things that really challenge us to think, what's going on with us? You had a hand, and I'll come to
Yeah.
Shirley.
Looking back, I think it's a generational thing in America. By that I mean that as growing up, our family got together every Sunday. And I'm talking about aunts, uncles, and cousins. And we were a faith family. And we were a relationship family. And it was love. I think when you have that as you're growing up, I don't think you're going to have that issue of depression and concern about